Now, at this time, I would like to present my son, Paul Jozefacki. He has some things to say. Well,
He's carrying something up. That could be a problem.
So, Wally, that was the short version. That'll be worse. That will be worse. So, when we're planning this party, my dad asked me to do a roast of my mother. And I thought, my dear sweet mother, I don't know, could I really do that? And then I thought, well, hell yeah, I could. I'm going to try not to offend her any more than I typically do while visiting. Luckily, that will be fine. So, yes, it's already been touched on that my mother and food in a lot of people's minds, and for good reason, they're somewhat synonymous. She's always cooking and baking, and I think at this point there are permanent footprints worn into the linoleum in front of her counter where she stands there day after day, especially while we're visiting. I think fights have broken out at bake sales over her coffee cake, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, she is very proud of her skills as a baker, and maybe almost as much as she is of her grandchildren. And I say that because when I went to the grocery store with her recently, and she ran into someone she knew, and started pulling out pictures, and she says, so here's my granddaughter Leah eating my tea ring, and here's Amelia eating one of my rolls. Here's Evan's birthday. Oh, and that's Evan next to his birthday cake that I made and decorated. And and here's a picture of all my children and grandchildren together, each one holding one of the types of Christmas cookies I made this year. But there's one type of food that my mother will never serve, and that is the dreaded appetizer. If you go over to my mother's house for dinner, and if you're going to my mother's house, you will be going over there for dinner. Your schedule looks something as follows. You arrive 5 p.m. Dinner is served 5:01 p.m. There will be a pause for dessert at 5:30, so your food can digest, and then you'll have dessert served at 5:31. So over and over, I've tried to convince my mother to relax the schedule a little bit, let them come over, sit down, relax, have a drink, right, talk, and the response I usually get is something like, after I've been slaving away at the kitchen all day, I'm not putting out that junk. And I said to my mom one day, I said, well, Mom, appetizers have their place. I mean, it's kind of like the foreplay before the main event. And I knew what was going to become. I was going to get this look and a shake of the head and something like, who raised you? I've heard that phrase many times. I don't know why it keeps coming to mind for a while I'm visiting, but actually, that isn't what she said, though. That's what I expected. Instead, she just turned to me and said, what's foreplay? And I looked over at my dad, he's like, all right, I made that entire thing up. So I'm continuing on with my food theme. I have been on a gluten-free and vegan diet now for some years, and people often ask you why. Is it for health reasons? Is it for environmental concerns, or prevent animal cruelty, etc.? And I say, well, those are all worthy reasons, but for me, no, it's mainly to torture my mother. So when I come to visit, it's a hell of a struggle for her to meet mine and other people's many varied dietary guidelines. And there's no priority higher for her than to fulfill people's needs in a food-related manner. So I needed to educate my mom as best I could about what my dietary needs were, and with veganism, no animal products, pretty straightforward. So I thought that was clear, but I ended up learning some things from my mother about the vegan diet, and it turns out it's not nearly as restrictive as I thought, because apparently it's okay to eat meat if you've purchased said meat at half price. Furthermore, fish is not meat, nor is chicken, it turns out, meat. That is poultry. So I've had a lot more latitude, and plus, we talk about it and sometimes argue about it, and has persuaded me to relax my strict standards sometimes with many compelling arguments, such as, it's just ham. I had nothing to combat something that strong, persuasive power. Okay, another element of my mom's providing for the family's food-related needs is her famous late-night ice cream shakes. Well, actually, they're available 24 hours at Dolores' Cafe, and anytime a child, and even more so a grandchild, hints at the desire for a malt, it will be forthcoming. One night, unbelievably, she actually ran out of bananas, which is a key ingredient of her shakes, and necessity being the mother of invention, she found a replacement for that, and thus was born her famous Polish sausage and chocolate malt. You people know how the whole thing got started. It's so popular that we don't take it for granted. But it's not just food. As has been already mentioned, there are many services that she performs for the community and the family. Booty making, sewing repairs, etc. One thing you may not know that she does is that she cuts my dad's hair for all these years. Yes, she has been collaborating with him on the legendary comb over. I couldn't leave you out of it completely. This year I hear they're taking it to a whole nother level. They're going all the way down to the shoulder hair. It's worth a shot. But my mom and dad collaborate on a great many things and have a remarkable amount of harmony together, more and more so it seems, sincerely, as each year goes by. How many years has it been now? You get together? How many? I'm looking at Dad. Mom? 58 years. Wow. So I'm sure they've learned a lot over those 58 years about how to get along with someone. And I've talked to them about that. And my mom told me that one of the things she eventually learned that it's silly to argue about most things. And I said, why? Is it because typically you have two equally valid perspectives about something, so why should you argue over it? And she said, yeah, that's mainly it. My father has his ideas, his opinion, and he's entitled to that, and I'm entitled to mine, and so that's fine. So what if he's wrong? And I was talking to my dad about the marriage together, and he described sort of the different phases he described. It went through, of course, was a honeymoon stage, and you're early as a young couple in the socializing, and then the children come along, and that's over with. Periods of a lot of travel, and then the grandparenting, and just all the beautiful moments and ways that they've shared their lives together. And then he quietly says to me on an aside, he says, currently we're in the Viagra stage. And my mother overhears that, Florian! And so we and that that's over with. But then he, even more quietly, says to me, it hasn't happened yet in the bedroom, but one of these days I know she's going to let me. And then she overhears again, Florian! What? Be quiet. So I say to my dad, whispering now, let you do what? He says, finish a sentence. It's a lot of work for that one. I know. A lot of work. I just couldn't let it go. All right, so my mother, what else is she known for? Saving money. Savings. No greater joy. She is not the origin and author of these ways, though obviously they're passed down from one generation to another, and I can speak from experience about that. I'll be doing my coupon cutting seminar just after this. Anyway, she was taught by her mother, who I'll just refer to as Gram, or for the grandchildren here, Great Gram. Great Gram was a master teacher in this. She lived a few blocks away, and in between her house and ours, there was a Century grocery store, and there was a conveniently large bin full of, well, slightly expired food, shall we say, that she kindly referred to as the treasure chest. And all of the treasures it held. She was famous for many things. She sewed her own dresses. I even heard that it was later discovered that she would flush her toilet but once a day. She actually sewed patches on her nylons, on her pantyhose. So she went all out, and that was the environment my mom grew up in, and the depression and everything, not terribly uncommon for people to be very careful with their resources, and actually I respect that a great deal. But my mother, not to be undone, she now sews patches on Ziploc bags if they get old. They're still good. Okay, maybe that didn't. Grandma also taught her some things about religion. We grew up Catholic. I grew up Catholic. My sisters, my mom, of course, grew up Catholic. But she learned some of the lesser-known passages of the Bible, standard rules about sin, but also lesser-known commandments such as "Thou shalt not pay retail." My mother still cuts coupons religiously. So I didn't want to say that, but I couldn't help myself. Sorry. My mom's mom, Great Gram, passed away now 18 years. I know because Gina was, I can remember that, a few things I can remember now because Gina was born not long after that. But my mom still has an active relationship with her mother, although it...
Long distance?
Yeah, long distance. In her mind, she talks to her. They were so close growing up all through life. Grandma was regularly at our house all the time growing up, and actually she had a pet name for me that I really enjoyed. I was the boyfriend. You can tell how long it had been since her husband had left her life and she hadn't been with him. But no, she was really sweet, and I really enjoyed my relationship with her. And so did my mom, obviously, and they were close from beginning to end. So, yeah, 18 years ago she died, but my mom still talks to her in her head. She's still having conversations, and once in a while I know she'll be asking, Grandma, what should I do in this situation? My dad, on the other hand, does not need Great Gram to tell him what to do. After all, he has Dolores for that.